Okay, so our third hand building technique is one that we're going to spend quite a bit of time on, probably up to close to Thanksgiving, is coil construction. Here's one of my Ceramics 2 students' work. There she did a coil-built cylinder. And this is the first thing you're going to be doing, is a cylinder. Straight up and down, no movement. You're not going to be able to see your coils for the most part. This is pretty lovely. This is an A in every sense of the word. It's perfectly straight. She leveled the top. You don't necessarily have to do that. It depends on your design. The inside she smoothed, which is what you're going to be doing as well, is smoothing the coils. And why we do that is because when your piece will split if you don't really do your construction right and do your smoothing. So these are nice, really lovely pieces. So this is our first one we're going to be doing. You're going to notice on Schoology, I'm going to post an iMovie of a bunch of examples of cylinders and movement vases for you to look at. And I recommend you look at them. It'll give you some ideas and maybe some inspiration to help you with how you want to build your movement piece in particular. So you're not using red clay, I am. You're going to be using the same clay you've been using. But first thing you're going to do, you have to cut out a base for your cylinder. And you're going to need, excuse me, a piece of canvas, of course, some clay. Oh, I hurt my tweaked my back. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to wedge this real quick. Golly. Flatten it out so it's not so thick. Then you're going to get 2 wooden dowel slats. Same thickness. Not, there's some over there that are real thin. I get the thicker ones. You're going to put on each side of your clay. Get a rolling pin. All I'm going to do is roll this out. And what these wooden slats do is keep your rolling pin, it keeps your clay the same thickness. So I don't have a thick and a thin base. So I'm done with these guys. So when it comes to the base of your cylinder, you're not going to make a tiny little circle for your cylinder. I want them to be a nice size circle, okay? I forgot a needle tool. Can someone grab me a needle tool, please? So, I don't want to see circles this big around or this big around for your cylinder or your movement piece. This is a good size. Set your whatever circle you have. I just find a container. When I cut, I try to cut straight up and down. Don't go at a 45-degree angle with your needle tool. And there I have the base of my vase. All right. And you want it to be a decent thickness. You don't want it to be too thin. Okay? So, I'm done with my canvas. Now it's time to roll coils. There's a right and a wrong way of doing this. I start like this. I'm done with my rolling pin too. Ow, hurt my back. So, it's fingertip to palms when you roll coils. I stand up. I put a little bit of pressure. And the goal is to have a nice, consistently even coil. I can move my hands over the entire coil, because if I keep my hands in one spot too long, it's going to become really, really thin, like that. And I don't want that. So that is a pretty decent sized coil for the size of my base. The bigger the base, you want a little thicker coil. Why? Because we're going to need that extra clay to smooth with. So to add a coil, score the top. And notice how somebody didn't clean my turntable that I got out of the cabinet. Please start doing that. So I'm just going to score around the top. And then I just score just the top of my coil. I'm going to slip. And what stage of clay am I working with, guys? Yeah, green clay. So, gosh, I wish I hadn't hurt my back. It hurts. Oh. So I'm going to put my coil right along the edge. Then I'm going to cut where it began. I often like to just kind of give it a gentle tap to really hold it down. And then I just kind of smooth where the end of the beginning started. And then I'm going to do this process all over again. Okay? So, when I make another coil, if I have a really long coil, some of you might ask, can I just keep going? No, you cannot. It will not look right, and you will have troubles when it comes to smoothing it. And it's liable to fall apart on you. So it's the same process every time, guys. Score, and I slip. And then where I started, where those two connections are, avoid that every time. Start somewhere else. And since I'm going straight up, I don't want my coils to go in or out, like off to the side like that. Don't want that. I want them to be directly on top of one another the entire time I build. Then I'm going to tap gently, turn it, make sure I'm staying straight. I can stand above it and look down and make sure that I'm straight. And that's looking pretty good. So when it comes to how tall you're going to build your cylinders, you're going to build them 9 inches tall, somewhere around here. Why am I going to have you build them that tall? What's going to happen to your clay as it dries? It's going to shrink an inch, believe it or not. A lot smaller. Hannah's looked a lot bigger when she was building it, and it shrunk quite a bit. So you're going to build 9 inches tall with your cylinders. You're going to build 9 inches tall with your coil movement. But you're going to continue building. I usually build about 4 coils, and then I start smoothing. You're going to need the wooden smoothing tool, a rib tool. Okay? And I usually start pulling my base up over that first coil like this. You can also use the rib tool if my back wasn't messed up to pull the base up. Now the inside, always support your wall when you're smoothing, always. Because when you're smoothing your clay, you're stretching those clay molecules and you're stretching that clay body out. You'll notice your clay will start going outward like this at the top. That's because you're pulling that clay and you're pulling it up and out. On the inside, use this tool that's got the rounded side, support, and you're just going to start pulling some clay up over each coil. You can use this tool, get it wet. You can smooth like butter, like that. And I don't want to see your coils showing. Now when we start movement, you decide on a shape you want to build. Where cylinders is going to be going, I see I'm already kind of need to mess around with it. Your cylinder is going to be straight with no movement. Your vase, you're going to show me movement. So if you want something to start moving out, when you add your coil, you're going to score and slip. If I want to start going outward with this, instead of directly on top, I'm going to start going on the edge. I'm going to move this coil slightly off center. Can everyone see that? And I'm going to continue building that way. And I start going outward. Opposite if I want to go inward. I'm going to start building my coils. I'm going to go in slightly on the previous coil. And I'm going to continue doing that. You cannot go so far, you're going to have physics working against you if you put your coil too far on the outer edge like that. As you keep building outward, it's just going to fall on you. So it's a gradual process. Build 4 or 5 coils and smooth your coils. Don't let your coils stay not smooth. Leave them like this. I leave for the day and I come back. You might not be able to smooth them. Your clay might be too hard. I am expecting you to build 9 inches, and I'm also expecting a surface design, whether it is reductive carving, stenciling, clay on clay. And when you look at the iMovie that I'm going to put on your class page of all the past student work, it's going to give you some examples of what you can do. There's countless things you can do. Is there any questions about coil construction? We're going to be doing a cylinder. We're going to be doing a vase. We're going to be doing a bowl. These take time, and these are needing your attention with construction because they're very, a little bit more complicated. All right? So, coil construction. And today, you can...
it's for me, I was just letting you know that.
Okay, good. Today, if you have clear glazing to do, clear glaze and get it back on the shelf. Now you've got different projects in all sorts of phases. You got pods you're working on, you got pinch pots you're waiting on. You have things you need to keep track of to get turned in. September 30th, due date for pinch pots. Some people have turned them in already. I'm not going to take late pinch pots this year because I've given you almost 2 months to get pinch pots done. That should be ample time. And I'm getting them fired. Okay? No questions? All right, we have a Viking day, so I'll let you guys get started.